Hey guys, this is a 3.2 video, and the learning objective for this lesson is students will be able to read chapters 2 and 3 of While the Locust Slept and analyze characters through page 4. So let's take some Cornell notes here first for step 1. The first thing that we need to talk about for this book is what kind of book it is. It's a memoir, and the sort of fancy word we use for what kind of books are is genre. So this book is in the memoir genre. And what is a memoir? Well, it's a nonfiction book about the author's own life. And so it's a true story. It's something that happened. Memoirs usually also cover just a certain part of an author's life, but not their whole life. And that's why they're not called autobiographies. Autobiographies cover the author's entire life. Let's think back to some of the texts that we've read this year already. A Raisin in the Sun we read was realistic, but fictional, right? And so things that happened in that play felt real and true even to the author's life, because she grew up in Chicago and she experienced racism. However, it was fictional. How about the short story Simple Recipes by Madeline Thien? Now that was a memoir. The author wrote about her own childhood. In this book, Peter Razor is telling us about his life. And so, again, it's a true story written by the author about the author's young life. All right, let's talk characterization now. When you read a new story, you start off knowing nothing about the different people involved. And so you learn about them through characterization. Characterization is the way characters are described or represented. Characterization can happen through direct description or through what a character says or does. For example, think back to the short story Charles. Remember that one with the naughty Laurie? In Charles, we learn about Laurie because of what he does and how he says things. Like, we learned that he was a swaggering character. That was a description that the narrator used to physically describe him. And we also saw that he whispered joyfully when saying bad words. So that shows that Laurie is a bit mischievous, right? He enjoys being bad. All right, so those are the kinds of things you want to look at when you're reading about the characters in this book. Even though it's a true story, an author still uses details like that to create a character based on the person who actually existed. Let's talk protagonists and antagonists a bit. Another way we can understand characters in a story is by looking at the protagonists and antagonists. What's a protagonist? Well, it's the main character of a story. And an antagonist is a person or thing keeping the protagonist from their goals. We usually think of antagonists as villains, bad guys, right? But they don't have to be evil, just in the way. Antagonists also don't have to be human or even alive. All of these could be antagonists in Raisin in the Sun. Willie Harris, certainly. He's the one who stole Walter's money and all of the Youngers' money. But Walter himself could be seen as an antagonist because he's trying to do best by his family, but it actually makes things harder for them. So it's sort of like he's an antagonist without trying to be one. Also, other antagonists in the story could be poverty and racism, which keep the Youngers from achieving their dreams. So how about in this book, in While the Locust Slept? Well, in While the Locust Slept, whoops, I've got this. Oh, no, this is the same thing, sorry. We've got Peter Razor as the protagonist, right? The main character and the author of the book, since it's a memoir. So what about the antagonist? Who or what is in Peter's way? Some of the antagonists in this book so far could be the state public school at Owatonna and all of the wrong that the people in that school did Peter. John Shawls. Yep, a lot of you have picked up on this already, that he's not going to be a great guy. Well, you're right. The foreshadowing has put you in the right direction. And so we'll learn more about him in the next chapters and why he might be an antagonist or a person keeping the protagonist from his goals. Racism. And so as you keep reading, watch for how Peter, his antagonist, and other people in the book are characterized, how they're described physically, what they say, and what other people say about them are all good ways to watch for how characters are characterized. All right, enjoy this next section.